Uh,
Yes, 60 Prabhuji, 60.
60 है ठीक है जी.
Oh yes, 60. Yes. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः. नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिने नाम्ने. नमस्ते सरस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे. जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री द्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद. हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम राम राम
हरे.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय.
ओम नमो
Om Namo
भगवते वासुदेवाय.
Devaya.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय.
Om Namo
भगवते वासुदेवाय.
ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
नारद उवाच.
नारद
Narad
उवाच.
Uvacha.
नारद येनैव भरते कर्म
येनैव भरते कर्म
तेनैवामुत्र तत्पुमान्.
तेनैवामुत्र तत्र पुमान्.
भुङ्क्ते ह्यव्यवधानेन
Bhumte
ते
ह्यव्यवधानेन
लिंगेन मनसा स्वयं.
लिंगेन मनसा स्वयं.
Yes.
Ali Prabhuji.
Yes, please.
Thank you, Hare Krishna. Translation. The great says Narad continued. The living entity act in gross body in this life. This body is forced to act by the subtle body, composed of mind, intelligence, and ego. After the gross body is lost, the subtle body is still there to enjoy or suffer. Thus, there is no change of it. The living entity has two kinds of body, the subtle body and gross body. Actually, he enjoys through the subtle body, which is composed of mind, intelligence, and ego. The gross body is instrumental outer covering. When the gross body is lost or when it dies, the root of gross body, the subtle body of mind, intelligence, and ego continue and bring about another gross body. Although the gross body apparently changes, the real root of gross body is always there. The subtle body activities, be the pious or impious, create another situation for the living entity to enjoy or suffer in the next gross body. Thus, the subtle body continues, whereas the gross body changes one after another. Since modern scientists and philosophers are too materialistic and since their knowledge is taken away by illusionary energy, they cannot explain how the gross body is changing. The materialistic philosopher Darwin has tried to study the change of gross body, but because he had no knowledge of either the subtle body or the soul, he could not clearly explain how the evolutionary process is going on. One may change the gross body, but he works in the subtle body. People cannot understand the activities of subtle body, and consequently, they are bewildered as to how the action of one gross body affect another gross body. The activities of subtle body are also guided by the super soul, as explained in Bhagavad Gita 15.15. Sarvasya chaham hriday sane visto mata smriti jnanam apohanam cha. I am seated in everyone's heart, and from me come remembrance, knowledge, and forgetfulness. Because the Supreme Personality of God as a super soul is always guided the individual soul. The individual soul always knows how to act according to reactions of his past karma. In other words, the super soul reminds him to act in such a way. Therefore, although there is apparently a change in gross body, there is a continuation between the lives of an individual soul. Thank you, Babaji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. The living entity acts in a gross body in this life. This body is supposed to act by the subtle body composed of mind, intelligence, and ego. So, see, the desires are formed in the subtle body and they continue there only. The living entity continues his existence in the subtle body. And when one gross body is finished, he takes another. Dehino asmin yatha dehe kaumaram yovanam jara tatha dehantar praptil dhiras tatra namudyati. So from one body to another, this consciousness is carried by the subtle body. And then the gross bodies are manifested. Like if you want to continue the journey, you can take a scooter, a car, a train, or an aircraft. But it's you who is continuing the journey. And in each subsequent vehicle that you are taking, you acquire the characteristics of the vehicle. So just like that, the subtle body takes on the characteristics of the external body or the gross body. And then it continues to enjoy or suffer the action, the resultant actions, resultant fruits of its actions in the previous body. So actually the evolution is taking place in the consciousness. It manifests in the body. So it's not that the body itself changes. The snake will not become a lizard and lizard will not become a rabbit, no cellular evolution into that, a cell evolving into a fish evolving into a reptile. I mean, amphibian to reptile to mammal to human. So this kind of evolution is not supported by any Vedic theories. According to Vedas, the consciousness evolves. Yes, so the body changes. So the bacteria will take the body of a fish will take the body of an amphibian will take the body of a reptile, and so forth. Not that the body itself will change. Only the soul inside will change, and all the species will remain existent simultaneously. So here it is, and this movement is guided by the Paramatma. Krishna is saying here, I am seated in everyone's heart. In the 18th chapter also, Krishna says the same thing. He says, Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriddeshe arjuna tishtati bhramyavi sarva bhutani yantra arudani mayaya. So it's as if on a body made of Maya. So the living entity is seated in the body made of Maya, but it is guided by Paramatma. So the living entity desires, oh, now I want to eat meat. So the Lord says, okay, here, this body is not suitable. You take the body of a tiger or a lion, then you can enjoy meat to your heart's content. So in this way, the living entity travels from one part of universe to another, from one body to another, always guided by Paramatma. And that we read that verse of Kathopanishad, where two birds are sitting on a tree. So Paramatma is observing the activities and desires of this living entity. And he's ever willing to guide. He's just waiting. When does this living entity desire to attain me? As soon as the living entity gives up the desire to enjoy the material fruits and immediately wants to associate with Krishna, Krishna releases him from this situation. So, so from him comes remembrance and forgetfulness. That's why you see we forget all our past lives, mothers, fathers, so many things we have lost in the previous life. We don't remember any of that because the Lord understands that if we remember all of that, we will not be able to enjoy this existence. So therefore, Krishna makes us forget all of that. Hare Krishna. Yes, any questions or comments?
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yeah.
Prabhuji, when this gross body, subtle body, and the soul come together, means one means like human will form or animal will form, right? And so does the subtle body and the soul always remain together, because the subtle body and the mind, it says, continues and bring about another gross body. So is the subtle and subtle body and soul always remain together?
Yes, that's what we call ghost.
Okay.
It's a ghostly body.
Okay. So the gross body is decided based upon the conditioning or the consciousness of the subtle body, means.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I'm feeling exceptionally tired and sleepy today. So you please continue the reading. I would just like to take your leave now because I have to pack some things for tomorrow morning. I have to leave at 4 o'clock.
Okay.
Please continue the reading. I'll be there, just hearing. I'm exhausted.
Yeah.
Okay, Prabhuji.
Okay. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. So, Rahul Prabhuji or someone, Ram Tilak Prabhuji is there. Prabhuji, you want to take the lead? Or Pranam Prabhuji is there too. Anyone, please.
We'll start, Mataji, then. We'll start with the 429.61. Shainam imam utsarjya
Shainam Mimam Utsarja
swasantam purusho yatha
Shvasantam Purusho Yatha
karmatmani ahitam bhankte
Karmatmani Ahitam Bhunkte
dreshen tarena va.
Tadreshena Tarena Va.
Translation. The living entity, while dreaming, gives up the actual living body, though the activities of his mind and intelligence he act in another body, either as a god or a dog. After giving up this gross body, the living entity enters either an animal body or a demigod's body on this planet or on another planet. He thus enjoys the result of the action of his past life. Although the root of distress and happiness is the mind, intelligence, and ego, a gross body is still required as an instrument for enjoyment. The gross body may change, but the subtle body continue to act. Unless the living entity gets another gross body, he will have to continue in a subtle body or a ghostly body. One become a ghost when the subtle body acts without the help of instrumental gross body. As stated in the verse, Shayanam imam utsajya swasantam. The gross body may lie on a bed and rest, and even though the machinery of the gross body is working, the living entity may leave, go into dreams and return to the gross body. When he returns to the body, he forgets his dream. Similarly, when the living entity takes on another gross body, he forgets the present gross body. The conclusion is that the subtle body, mind, and intelligence and ego creates an atmosphere which desires the ambitions that the living body enjoys in the subtle body. Actually, the living entity is in the subtle body, even though the gross body apparently changes, and even though he inhabits the gross body or various planets. All the activities performed by the living entity in the subtle body is called illusionary because they are not permanent. Liberation means getting out of the clutches of subtle body. Liberation from the gross body simply involves the transmigration of soul from one gross body to another. When the mind is educated in Krishna consciousness or higher consciousness in the mode of goodness, one is transferred either to the upper heavenly planet or to spiritual world. The Vaikuntha planet on the Vaikuntha planets. One therefore has to change his consciousness by cultivating knowledge received from Vedic instructions from the Supreme Personality of Godhead through the disciplic succession. If we train the subtle body in this life, by always thinking about Krishna, we will transfer to Krishna Loka after leaving the gross body. This is confirmed by Supreme Personality of Godhead. Janma karma cha me devyam evam yo veti tatvata tyaktva deham punarjanma nahiti mam itisho rajuna. One who knows the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities does not, upon leaving the body, take his birth again in this material world, but attain my eternal abode, O Arjuna. Bhagavad Gita 4.9. Thus, the change of gross body is not very important, but the change of subtle body is important. The Krishna consciousness movement is educating people to enlighten the subtle body. The perfect example in this regard is Ambrish Maharaj, who always engaged his mind on the lotus feet of Lord Krishna. Savai mana Krishna padar vindayo. Similarly, in this life, we should always fix our mind on the lotus feet of Krishna, who is present in his Archa Vigraha, the incarnation of deity in the temple. We should always engage in his worship. If we engage our speech in describing the activities of Lord and our ear in hearing about his pastime, and if we follow the regulative principle to keep the mind intact for advancing in Krishna consciousness, we shall certainly be elevated to spiritual platform. Then at a time of death, the mind, intelligence, and ego will no longer be materially contaminated. The living entity is present, and the mind, intelligence, and ego are also present. When the mind, intelligence, and ego are purified, all the active senses of the living entity become spiritual. Thus, the living entity attain his Satchidanand form. The Supreme Lord is always in his Satchidanand form. But the living entity, although part and parcel of Lord, become materially contaminated. When he desired to come to material world for material enjoyment, the prescription of returning home back to Godhead is given by the Lord himself in Bhagavad Gita 9.34. Manmana mad bhakto madhyaji mam namaskuru mam evesyashi yuktvayam atmanam mam parayana. Always think of me and become my devotee. Worship me and offer your homage unto me. Being completely absorbed in me, surely we will come to me. Hare Krishna. So what I understand is gross body, subtle body, and the soul. If till the time, as Prabhuji said, if we will not get the gross body, the subtle body, the subtle body will be known as ghost. Will be a ghost. And in Krishna consciousness, our purpose is to cleanse our subtle body, because the subtle body is the center point of is mind, ego, and intelligence. And uh, if the subtle body is cleansed, like it is said here, in the subtle body is cleansed, and we will be free from the false ego, false intelligence, then it will become Satchidanand. Then only we can go back to Godhead. Otherwise, till the time we have false intelligence or false ego, we will be transmigrating from one body to another body. And if we are so sinful, sometimes we may become a ghost and stay in this material world. Thank you. Anybody? Mataji would like to add something?
No, Prabhuji, it's just linking from the previous verse that Prabhuji has explained.
Okay.
The last line that stands beautifully out is that it's the change of consciousness. You don't need to necessarily, Prabhupada said, there is no need to change necessarily the gross body. That is not important. But the change of the subtle body is important. And if we look at the present scenario, there are so much effort and so much of money, resources is wasted in managing the gross body, and nothing is done for the subtle body.
Yeah.
Yes, maintaining the subtle body is important, but in people in Krishna consciousness, we will understand maintaining of gross body is important so that you can serve Krishna properly. But going extravagance in maintaining the gross body and not paying too much attention to the subtle body will lead to hell. Today we see when we try to preach, people are like, oh, we don't have time. Or, we are fine. Why are you teaching us this? We are all fine. Everything is going on well. This is clearly indicating that it's very important to preach, to clean our subtle body, else we will be stuck in this material world again and again. And one other thing that stood out to me was, it says when mind, intelligence, and ego are purified. So one thing that is standing out is ego doesn't go away anywhere. The ego stays. It's just the false ego gets converted into, I guess, purified ego or whatever you call it. Like the false ego goes away, that too slowly, but ego stays. And then eventually, I guess, I hope I'm saying it right, Prabhuji, please correct, that ego eventually gets purified to a purified ego, but doesn't go away anywhere. False ego falls.
Yeah. It can be like the senses we have, means it is also, the senses is also attached to the subtle body, and all the senses are currently engaged in different direction, which is not at all related to Krishna. It is, means people are eating food, they are not eating prasad, like people are entertaining their mind or with those activities. All these, they are cooking, still they are cooking the food. All the homes, food is prepared, but it is not related to Krishna. Then, so all those senses need to be engaged into Krishna consciousness. Means Krishna should be the focal point, and we have to engage our senses in like surrendering to Krishna only. Then our senses will be purified, and then this false ego, intelligence, and this will be purified. Otherwise, we will remain transmigrating from one body to another body.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Next was for 62. Mamaita mancha yad yad
Mamata mansa yadyat
Ashav aham iti bruvan.
Asav
asav aham iti bruvan.
Grahanyat tat puman radham.
Griniyat tat puman radham.
Karma yena punarbhava.
Karma yena punarbhava.
Anybody like to read? I can continue. I'll read. Translation. The living entity labors under the bodily conception of I am this, I am that. My duty is this, and therefore I shall do it. These are all mental impressions, and all these activities are temporary. Nonetheless, by the grace of Supreme Personality of Godhead, the living entity gets a chance to execute all his mental concoction. Thus, he gets another body. Purport. As long as one is absorbed in the bodily conception, his activities are performed on that platform. This is not very difficult to understand. In a world, we see that every nation is trying to supersede every other nation, and that every man is trying to advance beyond his fellow man. All these activities are going on under the name of advancement of civilization. There are many plans of making the body comfort, and these plans are carried in the subtle body after the destruction of gross body. It is not a fact that after the gross body is destroyed, the living entity is finished. All the many great philosophers and teachers in this world are under impression that after the body is finished, everything is finished. This is not a fact. Narad Muni says in this verse that at that one take his plans with him, Grahanyat, and to execute these plans, he get another body. This is called Punarbhava. When the gross body is finished, the plans of the living entity are taken up by mind, and by the grace of Lord, the living entity get a chance to give this plan shape in next life. This is known as law of karma. As long as the mind is absorbed in the laws of karma, a certain type of body must be accepted in next life. Karma is the aggregate of fruitive activities conducted to make this body comfortable and uncomfortable. We have actually seen that when man was about to die, he requested his physician to give him a chance to live 4 more years so that he could finish his plan. This means that while dying, he was thinking of his plans. After his body was destroyed, he doubtlessly carried his plans with him by means of subtle body composed of mind, intelligence, and ego. Thus, he would get another chance by the grace of Supreme Lord, the Super Soul who is always within the heart. Sarvasya chaham hriday sanvishisto mata smriti jnanam apohanam cha. In the next birth, one acquires remembrance from the Super Soul and begins to execute the plans begun in the previous life. This is explained in Bhagavad Gita in another verse. Ishvara sarva bhutanam hriday desha rajunati sthati brahmayan sarva bhutani yantra ruddhani mayaya. The Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, O Arjuna, and is directed the wandering of all living entities who are seated as on a machine made up of material energy. Bhagavad Gita 18.61. Situated on the vehicle given by material nature and reminded by the super soul within the heart, the living entity struggle all over the universe to fulfill his plans, thinking, I am a Brahmana, I am a Kshatriya, I am an American, I am an Indian, and so on. As these designations are the same essence, there is no point in becoming a Brahmana. In preference to an American or becoming an American in preference to an Negro, after all, these are all bodily conception under the mode of material nature. Hare Krishna. The same thing what we were discussing in the next verse means till the time Prabhupada gave an example of a dying person who still asking for 4 years so that he can fulfill the plan. Till the time we have any plan other than Krishna, then we will get another body as per our plan. So we have to means all our plan should be directed toward Krishna. Otherwise, means birth on birth we will get repeated birth. Anything you'd like to add, Mataji?
No, Prabhuji. Anybody else has to add anything? Please go ahead, Ji. This verse is pretty clear too, Prabhuji. It's relating with the previous one.
Yeah.
One thing that again stood out is there's no point in considering yourself. You're an American, you're a Kshatriya, you're a Brahman, you're an Indian. When the earthquake came in Turkey, it didn't check, today this earthquake is going to kill all Brahmanas, all Kshatriyas. In 1 second, everyone was gone. So we can imagine how temporary our existence is. Yet we are so puffed up. No wonder why Prabhupada says we are sitting on a machine made of material energy. The machine that we are puffed up is not even ours. It's by Krishna's grace, we got this machine that is made up of the ingredients that is again coming from Krishna. And everything else belonging inside the machine is coming from Krishna's energy too. So it's very, very nice to just remind ourselves again and again that there was I think I quoted that before, verse from Bhagavatam which said, we are living in beehives. So there's no point in having a 5-story beehive or 20-story beehive. Beehive is going to be a beehive. One day it's all going to be done. And the human being should learn a lesson. It's never too late though, but we should learn a lesson now. And we should try to cultivate Krishna consciousness by staying with devotees as much as possible. That's the point, Prabhuji, I got out of it. Thank you.
And
Prabhuji
it
and
is like,
Mataji would like to add something. Please go ahead. Sorry, Prabhuji, go ahead.
yeah, means whatever we desire, like God, Krishna is so merciful that he is not laughing on us. He's helping us to fulfill those desires. Like so means according to our desire, we are getting another body, and till the time our desires are not directed towards Krishna, birth on birth, we are getting one or another kind of body based on our desires.
Hare Krishna. Yes, actually in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna himself says that Yam Yam Vapi Smaran Bhavam Tyajatte Ante Kalevaram Tam Tame Vaiti Kaunteya Sada Tad Bhava Bhavita. So whatever bhav, whatever consciousness we are harboring at the time of death, that is what we are going to be born with. So if actually people understand this, all suicides will stop. Because why a person takes to committing suicide is he cannot just bear the whatever is going on in his life, in his mind, those circumstances. He doesn't understand that he has to face the same with the same type of consciousness. The same circumstances will come up again because he has to go through that suffering because of his karma. So that is the consciousness with which he dies, and he's again going to be in the same thing again. So it's true for all of us. I mean, all of us who feel that, okay, in this life, I have done so much Krishna consciousness. Now I can continue from this point next one. But again, we are going to be born with the same mental makeup, the same consciousness. We're going to be facing the same problems that we are facing right now in advancing. So we should really try to understand that either we do it now or it will be never, that sort of a thing. Krishna.
Krishna must be laughing, means whatever our desires, he must be laughing. But I don't know, he must be laughing or he must be...
He's laughing, but he's very compassionate also, Prabhuji. He understands that he's full of compassion. That's why in all ways he's trying to help us. Guru, Sadhu, Shastra. He's sending his devotees who are undergoing so much of troubles in this material world, just so that we can get purified. We get their association. So I don't think he's laughing that much. He knows that we are fools, but he's extremely compassionate.
Indulgently, he must be fulfilling, means whatever way.
One day I was hearing Keshavan Prabhuji lecture and he said, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was talking about Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and he said, how can we get rid of all the anarthas or negative feelings we have in our heart? He said he gave one simple formula. He said, always think about your goal and think about what somebody else has done to you. If you do that, you are doing that all the time to Krishna. You don't realize, but you are doing this every single day, every single moment to Krishna by turning your face against him. So what is he doing to you? He's not punishing you the way you are punishing the other person. He's very humble enough. And because of, as Mataji just said, he's sending different people who are suffering. Like Prabhupada had such a, not even a single problem we can think in this world that did not came to Prabhupada. So despite of all that, he managed to give us this path. So we can see, despite of all the, I would talk about myself, idiotic things that I keep on doing, still Prabhupada has been so merciful. So we can see Krishna has been extremely merciful and he's bringing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, us in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's cult, who is mercy multiplied by, 220, 2000, whatever you want to call it. Like all the fallen souls, he's saying, you don't want to take Krishna's name, I will still forcefully give you Krishna's prem. So we can see how merciful he is. So to your point, Babuji, yes, we do not have any hope. But because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is so merciful, we will have a hope.
Yeah. Like every parent are building their home for the kids. Like he also built Golak Vrindavan, and he must be waiting for us.
Ji.
Okay, go next verse. 63. Yatha numiyate chittam
Yatha numiyate chittam
ubhayer idriye hitare
ubhaya indriye
Ubhayor indriyaye hite
evam pragdehajan karma hajam
evam pragdehajam karma
lakshayate chitta vritti biha.
lakshate chitti vritti vriha.
Translation: one can understand the mental or consciousness position of a living entity by the activities of two kinds of senses, the knowledge acquiring senses and the executive senses. Similarly, by the mental condition or consciousness of a person, one can understand his position in the previous life. Okay, perfect. There is an English proverb that says, the face is the index of the mind. If one is angry, his anger is immediately expressed in his face. Similarly, other mental states are reflected by the actions of the gross body. In other words, the activities of the gross body are reactions of mental condition. The mind's activities are thinking, feeling, and willing. The willing portion of the mind is manifest by the activities of the body. The conclusion is that by the activities of the body and the senses, we can understand the condition of mind. The condition of the mind is affected by the past activities in the past body. When the mind is joined with a particular sense, it immediately becomes manifest in a certain way. For instance, when there is anger in the mind, the tongue vibrates so many maledictions. Similarly, when the mind's anger is expressed through the hand, there is fighting. When it is expressed through the leg, there is kicking. There are so many ways in which the subtle activities of mind are expressed through the various senses. The mind of a person in Krishna consciousness also act in a similar way. The tongue chants Hare Krishna, the Maha Mantra, the hands are raised in ecstasy, and the leg dance in Krishna consciousness. These symptoms are technically called Asta Satvik Vikara. Satvika Vikara is transformation of mental condition of goodness or sometimes transcendental ecstasy. Archana Mataji can explain this.
Hare Krishna. So actually, this is a very nice, interesting verse where Here Prabhupada is actually explaining that whatever we are acting, the way we act and all, it all begins in the mind, or it all begins in the subtle body. It's like nobody acts just out of the blue. It has begun with a thought and then it is processed into action. So that is why here it is said that face is the index of the mind. So whatever we are feeling, the way we are acting, it is all because we have been processing certain types of thoughts in our mind, in the subtle body, and those are being expressed. So that is why we say that why does a person have a certain swabhav, or a person will act, you can predict some people. Okay, this person will act like this in a situation. It is because that is the swabhav of the person. That is the conditioning, and that has been harbored in the mind and in the subtle body of the person, and that is how we predict. So in this context, Keshavanand Prabhu was mentioning a very interesting thing. He was saying that like we discuss about the free will of a person, that we have free will. And so like if we have free will, how does Krishna know what is going to be our future? Okay, because we have the free will, we can determine, we can determine to act in a certain way. But then at the same time, it is also said that Krishna knows the past, present, and future. Okay, past and present is understood. But how God knows the future? Because finally, how to act or what to do is in our hands because of our free will. So he said it was a very, very interesting thing. I found it very interesting. So he said that, see, like how we know, like from the time we are born to now, however many years we have been experiencing nature on this earth planet. Like we know that after every summer, there's going to be a rainy season. Then there's going to be a winter season, and all we know that how cyclical. We know that 6 o'clock in the morning, there's going to be sunrise, 6 o'clock in the evening, there's going to be sunset. Now, these are very predictable things. And anybody who has lived for quite some time over here knows that these things are going to happen. And this is exactly how they keep on happening. So he was saying that Krishna is associated with the living entities since time immemorial, such a long time. And he knows the swabhav of this jiv or the living entity in and out. And that is why he's able to predict the future, because he can exactly predict what a living entity will do, because he knows his swabhav since the time living entity and he have come into existence. So that is how the in this verse it is said that how things become predictable. And so we also need to know that if we have to change just externally, doing that and all, it's not, the change has to come from within. The change has to come in the subtle body, the mind, and this is possible only by devotional service, because that only destroys the root of the sin. Otherwise, it will be, just like in medicine, we have something called a symptomatic treatment, and the actual treatment, okay, which removes the disease from the roots. So symptomatic treatment will just give you relief for some time. But if you want to actually remove the root of the disease, you have to find out where it is. And so similarly, now with the help of the study of the Bhagavatam, we can understand where all the problems lie and what is the solution. So rather than just resorting to symptomatic treatment, we need to go down to the roots and treat ourselves. Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you.
So here, Mataji, it is mentioned means asta sattvic vikar. Normally, vikar is the negative connotation. Means what exactly it means? It is vikar.
Actually, I also, this Sanskrit thing, even I cannot say, because every Sanskrit word has different meanings in different contexts. So I don't know, there may be other this, but obviously these are the symptoms which come up during the ecstasy. And again, this cannot be faked. Okay, it happens because there is true ecstasy. There is, because of devotional service, there is the connection with the Lord. And because of these things, these come up, as it was very frequently exhibited by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And so exactly this word vikar, it may be having many meanings. So I cannot comment. I really don't know. If anybody else knows, they can please.
So this is talking about mainly means by the conditioner, means body and senses, how they are acting. We can know the condition, means condition of the means
Of the mind, what's going on in the mind, and what is the consciousness of the person by the actions of the person.
Okay, so it should be as per the instruction given by Acharya, and we can see by the activities or like activities of they want to say like that. Or?
Yes, so the thing is, we will act in the way what our conditions are, our conditionings are, and accordingly we have developed that sort of a swabhav or a nature. So it's always said, na, people say that you cannot change your swabhav. Nobody can change the nature. And that is very true. The only thing which can change the nature truly, okay, from the very depth, from the root, is devotional service. Because that only clears all the anarthas. It removes the bij, the seeds of the anarthas. Okay, and that is how we can change our swabhav. And we can become truly Krishna conscious.
Okay.
And we have been carrying out this since millions of lifetimes. Okay, maybe little bit improving or little bit changing with every lifetime according to how we are, what our thinking, feeling, and willing has been, and what our karmas and desires have been. But unless you come to Krishna consciousness, this is not going to change.
Means if somebody means, okay, we have done certain part of devotion service, and means in our next birth, I don't know whether it will be possible in this birth or not. What will be our next birth? Mean in our next birth, do we remember means what we did in this birth? It will continue, or how it will go?
Yes, the consciousness, there is no break in the consciousness. It is going to continue the same as it was at the time of our death. It's only that the body which is going to change, depending upon what that consciousness has been and what our desires are also. So we cannot just think, okay, fine, I have done this much in this life, and now let me enjoy and I'll continue in the next life. No, how long will we keep on doing that? We are going to be born with that same mental makeup. So someday we have to make a firm decision and decide, okay, now this is it. I have to change it now, or it will be like never.
Prabhupada said, means give this life to Krishna. Give this life
exactly. And for most of us, half of it or more than half of it is over. So how much is left?
We don't know. Maybe it will be today or tomorrow.
We don't know exactly. That should really make us serious about.
Very bol Mataji, very beautiful explanation. Thank you, Ji.
Hare Krishna.
So from Monday we'll start Nectar of Instruction.
Yes, sir.
We'll have discussion kind of thing till the time Prabhuji will join.
I think we can make it from 9 to 9:30. Is that fine with everybody?
No, not an issue. We can discuss on group, means what will be the timing. Means
Yeah.
make it short, or how. Nectar of Instruction will be interesting. It's a small book, but it's very, very informative. Yes. So today we can stop now.
Yes, very good.
Ji.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Madhavi.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Jai.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Ram.
Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you, Mataji.
Krishna.
Hare
Thank you,
Krishna.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna Ji. Dandavat pranam.